And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, proud sponsor of the ABSA Africa Financial Markets Index 2025. Good evening, I'm Stephen Grootes. Welcome to the program. 8 minutes after 6 the time. One of those days where quite a few interesting things happen. Vodacom's earnings are up. Aspen announced that big deal finally with that company that they've been involved in a dispute with a customer of theirs. I do wonder if Aspen are happy with getting 500 million rand. They might well have wanted a little bit more than that. We'll probably have to sort of read the tea leaves to understand it. And then, of course, also Curro going to delist probably by the 2nd of December. They had the big vote today of shareholders, virtually everybody, voting to go yes and to agree to that deal with the Jannie Moulton Stiftung, the foundation of the founder of Capitec. And essentially that will be the end of Curro on the JSE. It's a very interesting deal. You'll recall when it was announced that the owners of Curro will essentially get Capitec shares. So on one level, it is a big donation. They claim the biggest ever corporate donation or the biggest ever donation in South Africa. Curro continues to operate. It continues to take fees, but all of its profits will be reinvested into more facilities. That's the idea. I think there will be very interesting people watching that to see how all of that plays out. And again, we're back to the sort of education question in South Africa. More and more I get staggered by the numbers that are coming out about online gambling. And we'll speak to the director at 8020. They've been doing some research on this in a couple of moments. I think that's an important conversation. But it seems more and more it's kind of taking over. Do you know when you get a sense that something's taking over? I mean, maybe you felt in the 1970s TV was doing that, or if your memory goes back 100 years, radio was doing that. I just get a sense that online gambling is taking over. And it certainly seems to be taking over money. More and more CEOs are talking about it because they're seeing less money coming into their companies as a result. And I keep making this point. I don't think the current regulation, where it's done by provinces, is really sustainable. I can't help but feel there needs to be a big change and it needs to go to national government. We keep talking about how to create jobs. Well, the Business Process Enabling SA, they help with companies that are involved in providing telephone services and call center services to international companies. They say they're creating jobs in South Africa. I'm looking forward to that conversation in a few moments. Professor Adrian Saville, the person you turn to when you want to understand what really happened in that summit this week between President Xi Jinping and President Donald Trump. It does seem to be a sort of armed truce, I think is the best way to look at it. And then we'll speak to Louise Dawood, the founder of Curd and Whey. If you're wondering what that means, she's involved in making cheese. And not just any cheese, but all sorts of cheeses. We'll speak to her. Don't forget, by the way, the Friday Biz Blitz as well, before 7 o'clock. You might want to book your spot now for the Friday Biz Blitz. Questions to come about some of the news of the week. Good to hear from you. 011 883 0702 021 446 0567 and voice notes on 072 702 1702.
The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
and DSTV channel 856.
Well, new figures out this week about the size of the online gambling industry. 8020 research suggesting that the industry in South Africa is now worth 75 billion rand a year. And this was the number that really stuck out for me, that 42% of adults are gambling every month. The director at 8020 is Andrew Fulton. Andrew, good evening. Did I read that right? 42% of people in South Africa are gambling online every month. Andrew Fulton, are you with us? All right, we'll put Andrew Fulton back, see if we're able to just fix that line. As you can hear, the carrier wave was there, but unfortunately not able to get through to him and just continue that conversation. An amazing figure, I thought, 42%. And of course, there are other questions around where the money is actually going. And that becomes the other question. We've heard several suggestions from various people that that money might be going to other countries. We don't know. We don't know all of it, but there's quite a lot of research that's being done on this at the moment as well, and importantly, so that we can get to the sort of bottom of what the story actually is. But we are seeing a lot more of that research being done. But Andrew Fulton at 8020 Research, we hope will have some of the answers for us. I do know that other people have been looking at this more recently as well, and as I say, I expect that we are going to find that there will be a lot more attention on the issue of online gambling. And I think social pressure is going to build too. And that will lead to political pressure. Andrew Fulton now from 80/20 with us. Andrew, good evening. Am I right? 42% of people are gambling online every month.
Yeah, that's what we're finding. I mean, we're a strategy, analytics, and research company, and we use research to sort of understand different industries and advise our clients. This data is from the Rootes survey, which is a 30,000 sample survey that comes out every 3 years. And it claims that 42% of South Africans now make monthly gambling payments. Quite a large number.
I mean, surely the majority are losing money. If you gamble online over the course of a year, you're going to lose. You're not going to win money.
Well, the house is always going to make its money, but it is an interesting sort of financial transaction in that, it doesn't feel like a pure expense because you see winners. If you wager 100 rand, you might come back with 110, you might come back with 90. The house always wins, and you generally will see losses. But there are huge amounts of winners as well. I mean, you see the Hollywood Bets ad that they're creating a certain number of millionaires every week. Or every month. It's there are people out there that are making money, or they're looking at it as entertainment expense. So they're saying, well, look, I would be paying to get video games or to just stream a movie. I'm seeing this as an entertainment expense as opposed to actual losses.
The companies behind this, so the house in this case, Andrew, they must be making a fortune.
They are making quite a bit of money. I mean, the industry is worth about 75 billion rand last year. That's about the budget of the Western Cape government. So all the money that's spent on highways and hospitals and schooling. It's about half the income of Pick and Pay in a given year. Significant amount of money. But the other higher figure, which is also quite worrying, is South Africans are wagering about 1.5 trillion rand in a year. And that's up 36% from the previous year. So it's high and it's growing.
If you have a company like, let's just say you use Pick and Pay, but any of the big supermarkets, the money goes in, and that also then means it's spent by them, but it's spent on suppliers. There's a whole food chain behind it involving people in South Africa that are then employed by that money. What's happening in the online gambling space? Because yes, 75 billion rand's a huge amount of revenue, but it doesn't need a large number of people to create online gambling games.
This is true. I mean, if you're looking at people that are saying that it's good in terms of investment and it's what it's doing, it creates fun, it creates entertainment, it creates taxes. I mean, 6 billion in taxes is raised every year from gambling. It creates jobs, a claim of about 33,000 direct and 144,000 indirect jobs. Technological development. I mean, there's certainly some amazing machine learning, AI, and tech development coming out of the gambling space. So that would be on the positive. But yes, on the negative, the money is just going to these companies and perhaps leaving the country. The money that's spent on the advertising is also astronomical. And as you said, it's coming at the expense of a number of people. One of the claims we read was 20% of SASSA money goes straight into gambling, which is a group of people that are not in a good position to afford that expense.
Do you have any insight into how much of this money is leaving the country? I mean, there have been various claims. They haven't necessarily been backed up insofar as I can see, but the sort of claim is that the parent companies to these companies are really foreign, that the money is just simply leaving.
I actually don't know the answer to that. We haven't been able to get to figure that out yet. But I mean, what is interesting, one of the things that created this boom was prior to COVID, the United States relaxed legislation on sports betting. So that created a massive market in the biggest economy in the world, and that did lead to copycat or extended businesses into other countries like South Africa. But yeah, I couldn't really speak to how much of the money is actually leaving the country. I
mean, as I'm talking to you, I'm getting WhatsApps from people who are really, really angry at this. And Natasha says it's against my core morality of how to make money. There must be growing opposition to it too.
There is. I mean, you probably read about the Pick and Pay CEO, Sean Summers, saying that there should be a ban on online gambling ads completely. That the industry is a bit out of control. Once again, as I said, we use research to help understand markets, understand the country. YouGov is another survey that we use frequently, and that finds that opposition to gambling, people that think it should be illegal, has grown from 33% to over 40% in recent years. So there is a growing number of people who are seeing lives challenged, money going out from productive, better, in quotation marks, spending opportunities to gambling, for sure.
Andrew Fulton, thanks very much indeed, Director at 8020. I have no doubt that political pressure is going to grow at some point to do something about online gambling, at least regulate it more tightly. Andrew, thank you.
702.
702.
Stephen is on The Money Show.
6 to 8 p.m.
18 after 6. Figures from the group Business Process Enabling South Africa that our global business services sectors created nearly 9,000 new international jobs in the period from April to June. These would primarily be jobs, I presume, in the international call center sector, but the people are employed in South Africa. Reshni Singh is the CEO at Business Process Enabling South Africa. Reshni, good evening. What kind of services are the people in these new jobs providing? Where's this demand coming from?
Good evening, Stephen, to you and your listeners. The services that we're speaking about are actually not just contact centers. They finance, accounting, IT, HR, analytics support. So anything that's IT enabled that can be outsourced and offshored. And they're predominantly coming from English-speaking source markets such as the UK and the US.
Some of these jobs, some of the services you're talking about are things that people keep saying AI will be able to do this, whether it's a call center, whether it's human resources, even whether it's finance and accountancy. You're clearly not seeing any impact on that at all. People are still investing.
Yes, definitely. In fact, I think, one of the key drivers of the growth is actually the fact that South Africa offers a unique blend of cost effectiveness, talent, and infrastructure to global buyers. So I think that is one of the most important things. We have a very young talent pool. English proficiency levels are quite high. And most importantly, our ICT and connectivity infrastructure has improved significantly. And if you compare that with other parts or other emerging locations, South Africa is definitely doing a lot better there. So these are the key drivers of interest in South Africa. And when we speak about AI, Stephen, a lot of the routine, repetitive kind of tasks, can easily be automated. And I think the opportunity that this presents is that we need to upskill and reskill our young people so that they can be able to, be skilled at a higher level, be able to earn a higher salary, get better paid to be able to perform these services. So for me, it's more of an augmentation and an improvement and an upskilling kind of initiative as opposed to, shifting jobs. So that's where it is.
Do you believe there's a lot more growth to come here? I mean, do you think that actually we can keep pushing, may I use the word hustling, and get more growth here?
Most definitely. I think, we obviously work very closely with government, the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, and we actually have a master plan to create 500,000 jobs by 2030. And with the last quarter being April to June, having a job target of 8,000 plus jobs in a quarter is actually definitely a good indication. It's been the highest ever since the sector was prioritized by government, which was in around 2006. So it's the highest quarter we've ever had. And I think that's a good indication that, there's more to come. And there's a lot of cost pressure in the source markets to be able to provide these services. So they're all looking for more cost-effective, options. And South Africa does present that for them.
Reshni Singh, thanks very much indeed. CEO at BPESA.
The Money Show. Explainer.
We saw that meeting this week between the Chinese President Xi Jinping and the US President Donald Trump. The end result, Trump lowering tariffs on Chinese goods, although the average tariff for Chinese goods entering the US is still 45%. China deferring a ban on the export of rare earth minerals, also agreeing to buy American soybeans. Professor Adrian Saville is Professor of Economics and Finance at Gibbs. Adrian, good evening, and thanks for your time this Friday night. It's an in-person meeting. Everyone gets quite excited. How will they relate to each other? What's the body language like? And in the end, most of the commentary just seems to be, well, the real fight has just been delayed.
Yeah, and, this is a process. So although there might have inched a little closer to some type of resolution. This is by no means over. Here you've got, two economic heavyweights squaring up and trying to, figure out pretty much in a one-upmanship way how they edge advantage. And there's a lot at stake here, beyond the obvious sort of egos and chest beating. There's a tremendous amount at stake in terms of the implications for supply chains, for various industrial clusters, and at least one of the parties at the table has the ability to play the long game. The other doesn't. So there's a fair chunk at risk here, in particular for the Trump administration.
You're suggesting, I presume, that it's really China, and in this situation where there's this kind of armed truce, with a sort of handshake, but an armed truce, does China just get stronger and stronger, and the US has to basically put up with it?
There's a range of measures that you could bring here, all the way from sort of what we would call hard power, economic heft, military weight, where China is steadily closing the gap with the United States. And there is soft power. Soft power takes the form of sort of cultural presence, your qualifications, graduates, technical capability, things that are invisible but matter very much. And China is getting stronger and stronger on all fronts. So, if we were to put money on the table on who's likely to come out better as a result of these negotiations, deliberations, contests, I would have my money on Xi rather than Trump.
One of the things that's fascinated me is how China seems to have become a lot more sophisticated in the pressure points that it can use against the US in all sorts of ways. It's not just about, we could ban rare earths. It's about, the pressure on soybeans, which of course is a group of voters, farmers that went overwhelmingly for Trump. The suggestion that you can do this for a little bit, that you can increase dockage fees, port fees for ships carrying things to the US. All of that is getting very intricate and very interesting.
And, to go back to the opening, my opening thought is it is far from done. They'll continue to try and sort of squeeze and edge and find subtle nuances. But, ultimately it's going to translate into bigger implications. And, here, in talking about the forms of power, one that's worth adding into the conversation is currency, which is the thing that oils this entire mechanism. And what could all of this mean for a bigger outcome where China starts to become, or the Chinese renminbi starts to become the currency of choice through all of this? So there's a tremendous amount of furniture rearranging happening here. And it's worth bearing in mind that Trump is closer to becoming lame duck with midterms, whereas, my earlier observation, China has the ability to play a very, very patient long game. And in negotiations, if you've got time on your side, you have got a very, very powerful ally.
Professor Adrian Saville, really appreciate the time. Thank you very much indeed. The Professor of Economics and Finance at Gibbs. 27 after 6.
The Money Show.
The markets.
Imtiaz Suleiman is a portfolio manager at Sentio Capital. Imtiaz, good evening. A nice strong update from Vodacom today.
Yeah, good evening, Stephen. I think what we've seen coming out of the telco sector is quite good results. And in the case of Vodacom, they guiding that earnings are going to be up between 40 and 45%. And this is on the back of some of the negative one-offs in the prior year, which does not repeat. I think overall we've seen a better environment for the telco companies, especially in their African operations, because those countries have been through quite an adjustment in terms of currencies whereby it devalued, and we haven't seen the recurrence of that. South Africa is still a bit challenged, very much a tough market, lots of competition, and I would like to see the full result with regards to how well the SA environment is doing for them.
And then MTN, their results from Nigeria, and obviously that's such an important market for them and quite a nice turnaround.
Yeah, exactly. I think, Nigeria has been very volatile for MTN, either from a currency perspective or from some of the regulatory perspectives. And it's nice to see that operation is turning around. They have guided that they will be declaring a dividend out of Nigeria, which is a very positive surprise. And we've seen strong growth, and this is on the back of the regulator allowing MTN to put through a price increase of 50%. And we haven't had a price increase for a number of years. And we're seeing a resumption of data growth, voice growth, which is growing at quite healthy levels on the back of the price increase as well as demand for data and voice.
Aspen, so we know they've been in this big dispute with a customer. It's over an mRNA production agreement. Now they're getting 500 million rand. Do you think that's going to be enough for them? I mean, would they be happy with that?
I think it brings closure to a episode in their lives which they would like. It's certainly not enough. The contract that they lost was in excess of 2 billion in terms of the EBITDA levels. So this is a fraction of that. But I think what Aspen can do from here on is move on and try and fill that manufacturing capacity with other contracts from other players. So it's something better than nothing, but certainly not the amount that they did lose initially.
And then in the States, some tech earnings coming in, Amazon and Apple, both quite upbeat.
Yeah, I think we're seeing very strong earnings come through from the Magnificent Seven companies. In the case of Amazon, they're guiding that their Amazon Web Services is still growing in the 30% levels, which is a very healthy growth. And from a consumer perspective, the online business is also growing in double digits. So the market is looking at any sort of signs of how the U.S. consumer is doing, especially since we've got this U.S. blackout in terms of data because of the U.S. shutdown. And it seems to be that the consumer is still in a decent shape. With regards to Apple, the new iPhone is certainly working in their favor. And we've seen an upgrade cycle come through, which, post-COVID, that's been a bit lackluster. So Apple is still guiding for good double-digit growth in the year to come.
Imtiaz Suleiman, thanks very much indeed. Portfolio manager at Sentio Capital.
WhatsApp Stephen
on 072
702
1702.
A couple of messages coming through around online gambling, the scale of it, the speed at which it's changed. I think that's part of it. I think also just the way in which money may well be lost. Look, I have no problem with people making money. You've got to run a business. But I made the point during that conversation, this is not like a supermarket or something like that where there's a whole supply chain. It's 5 people in a room coming up with ideas, another 5 people managing it. I mean, obviously it's more than that, but it's not like you're employing a huge number of people through online gambling. That's just not how it works. Also, you heard that conversation with Adrian Saville around the Trump-Xi meeting. Voice notes coming through on that tonight.
Yes, good evening. Just listening to this analyst around China and America's debate and trying to find advantage and ending with the idea that time, if you've got time on your side, you definitely have the advantage. I love this idea so much, and it just reminds me of the different game America and China are playing. America, the West, their civilization, let's say 400 years old. China is like 2,000, 3,000 years old. They see time differently. How do they plan for time? Are the West just thinking 50 years, 5 years, 10 years? Or you get the sense that China's thinking 200 years, 250 years? It reminds me of that. Someone asked a delegate from China, what is your opinion on the French Revolution? And the delegate said, it's still too early to tell. See, different relationship with time.
Yeah, thank you for that. I've heard that anecdote about the French Revolution, too early to tell, many, many times, and so many different versions of it. But most of the versions I've heard do have a Chinese leader or a sort of Chinese view around it. But it's such a great way to sort of explain things. I think the other thing is that Trump is doing all of this in a very, very short space of time. As Adrian Saville mentioned, you know, he might well be a lame duck after the midterms, although I don't know if that's true. But even then, you're just looking at sort of 3 years. After that, it all changes. And yes, it may be someone like him, but probably not on tariffs. Anyway, your views on all of that on 011 883 0702 021 446 0567 and voice notes on 072 702 1702.
702.
702.
Stephen is on the Money Show.
6 to 8 p.m.
Well, I noticed that the inquiry by Parliament, this is the Standing Committee on Public Accounts into the Road Accident Fund, continuing. And surprise, surprise, well, to the surprise, I think, of no one, Collins Letswalo, the former CEO, seems to be ducking and diving around whether or not he'll testify. The chair, Songezo Zibi, he's from Rise Mzansi, he's saying, look, we can't beg this man forever, I think was the way he put it, to come and testify. We'll have to subpoena him. I kind of guarantee you Collins Letswalo is going to do a lot of different things to try and get out of testifying under oath. And I say that because it seems to me that Letswalo just hasn't listened to any authority. He hasn't listened to the Auditor General on the accounting standards. He didn't listen to the Transport Minister in the previous government before the last election. Didn't listen to the Chair of Parliament then. Basically wouldn't listen to anyone. So I'm afraid to say I will be surprised if he listens to Parliament in this case and comes and answers questions. And when he does, I think that's going to be quite an interesting experience as well. I'm reminded as well, and I think this is important because we sort of forget about what happens in these organizations when they are run in the way in which Collins Letswalo was running it. And there's plenty about how he was running it. There was a witness who came to testify into Parliament, and the moment he started talking about the meetings he had gone in to with Collins Letswalo, he just started crying. And I don't think he was overcome by having to speak to Parliament. I know that's very, very difficult for some people, very stressful moment. I think it was just the memory of what it was like. And that, to me, in normal circumstances, I mean, I suppose the word you would use there would probably be bullying or something along those lines. What I hope happens is that Collins Letswalo does what I think anyone should do if Parliament calls you. You go and account. You go and answer questions under oath. And you explain yourself. Why did you do this? Why did you choose this accounting standard? Why did you treat someone in a way in which they now, a couple of years later, are still overcome with emotion about it? I think there's serious questions there. I'm afraid to say, though, I don't think that's how it's going to be.
The Money Show.
The Friday File.
The Friday File.
Well, one of the pleasures of sitting back over a weekend is to take some time out to go and look at what you should have for supper, what you should include, what you should eat that maybe is new, something you don't have very often. And one of the guilty pleasures of life, that's not as guilty as so many of the other pleasures, is cheese. There's an almost infinite variety of it. It can be paired with many things. It can give you a feeling, particularly if it's paired with, say, good wine or something, that you just won't get in any other way. The founder at Curd and Whey, I think you can work out that they make cheese, is Louise Darwood. Louise, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us on Friday File.
Good evening, Stephen. Thank you for having me.
You've been in the cheese business for a long time. Do you have any understanding, maybe you can help us with, why cheese is so special, in a way so magical, something that humans have enjoyed for such a long time?
Stephen, I agree it is quite magical. And if you would see the process of making cheese from a white liquid, you'll agree that it's so magical. And maybe it's because there's so many varieties and just so much you can do with it, cold and warm and cooked and raw. But if you see the process of how it's actually made, it's why I'm enchanted by it every day.
I mean, it's kind of one of those substances that almost shouldn't really exist, right? You shouldn't be able to take milk and then turn it into this infinite variety of things that also change taste and texture and time and smell over time. I mean, it ferments, if that's even the right word.
Exactly, it is.
One of the main points of it must be that it's so variable. You can do so much with it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what makes it special?
Absolutely, Stephen. It definitely is for us, and the type or the variety of cheese that we make is not what everybody expects. It's not the dry and solid yellow things that people are used to, and so it just goes to show there's so many varieties and so many things that you can do with it. It is really very versatile.
What do you find are the most interesting types of cheese to specialize in?
Stephen. The most interesting for me, obviously, is the one that we make, and it's the reason why we make it. Is because unlike other cheeses that you coagulate the milk and produce curd and set it and age it and leave it there to naturally do its thing, we produce ours quite quickly because it is a fresh product, and so the transformation is even more magical, I think, than aged or solid curd cheeses. Because we actually melt the curds down and stretch it and form it into different shapes. And so that really is very special.
I imagine you have to get the temperature just right. I mean, that's a process you have to watch quite carefully. You don't just switch the oven on and walk away and watch something on your phone.
Oh, no. All of it, everything that we do requires great attention to the details, and it is about controlling and managing the temperatures throughout the process.
When you make cheese like that, is there a relationship between taste and color? If you see a cheese of a particular color, can you predict that it'll have a certain taste, or is there no link between the two?
For the most part, Stephen, when you see cheeses that are yellow in color, they mostly are colored with an additive. Naturally, cheese, when it's fresh, has the color of milk. So it's literally just the solid components of the milk. And so it should look white. It will change over time very slightly, but it's a very natural color change, and that will give you an indication of what it will taste like as it ages and matures.
And can you make the taste stronger or weaker? I mean, I don't mind a strong cheese. I remember a comic book from my childhood, Asterix, I don't know if you read them, where they literally, use a cheese to blow up a boat because the smell is so strong. I mean, that's a sort of French joke in a way.
Yes.
But can you actually change the strength of the taste? I imagine you kind of have an idea in your mind of what this batch is going to produce when you start and what you're aiming for.
Stephen, fundamentally, the taste of the milk is what you start with, and that gives the richness and the flavor it will give to the cheese. To force flavor is not a natural thing. Naturally, cheese will develop and mature, and that is what produces the flavor. The chemical reactions that happen within the cheese is what gives it its flavor and maturity at the end of the day. But of course, there are things that you can add to enhance it and give it variation.
The type
we particularly don't.
The type of cheese that you make, do you recommend it be paired or eaten or sort of enjoyed with anything in particular? I mean, are there particular, sometimes you have cheese on bread, sometimes on biscuits, sometimes alone, sometimes with a glass of this or that?
In particular, the varieties of cheese that we make are fresh, and so they don't have a strong flavor on their own. We do recommend that it be paired with other things, with fresh ingredients. The type of cheese we make is an Italian-styled fresh cheese. So it's a fior di latte or burrata in the Italian style. And so traditionally it would be paired with tomatoes and basil and olive oil and things like that to enhance the flavor. And of course, if you have a glass of wine next to that, that's always better.
There's certain parts of the world with a very strong cheese tradition. So you mentioned Italy, France, I'm sure parts of Belgium. Someone will claim to be a fan of British cheese. I can't imagine why. Are there any traditions that we are forming in South Africa or that have been around for a while that you can see?
Stephen, I don't want to comment too broadly on that, but I do think that we have the benefit now of being exposed to different cultures and flavors of cheeses from around the world. And that's one of the things that we strive to do, is to bring something that is very traditionally Italian and make it locally available and make it just as good as you would get it if you had it in Italy. And I think that's the benefit that we have as the industry grows, is that we're getting access to the flavors and the cultures and the different types of cheeses that we might not have been able to get 10 years ago. and we can now pick those up, and maybe that is the development that we're seeing in the industry.
Is the market for cheese growing? Are you seeing more people, different people, people coming back? Are you seeing the market growing at all for cheese?
Certainly, and definitely for the types of cheeses that we make, they are becoming more popular, especially in the restaurant industry and even among our retailers. The interest is definitely growing, and we are sustaining that interest and the excitement about the product.
Louise Darwood, thanks very much indeed. Really appreciate the time. Founder at Curd and Whey, obviously on your Friday file tonight, and maybe a little something to chuck into the shopping hamper tomorrow when, you go and look for something interesting to add to your lunch or your dinner that you're having on Sunday.
Stephen Grootes
Taking your calls
on 011-883-0702.
Time for the Friday Biz Blitz on The Money Show tonight. That's the number, 011-883-0702, 021-446-0567. You know how it works. You call us, we put out the question, you call us. If you get it right, we move on to the next question. If you get it wrong, we move on to the next caller. Okay, first question on the Friday Biz Blitz this evening. Which tech company is the world's first company to reach a valuation of $5 trillion? What is the world's first $5 trillion company? 011-883-0702, 021-446-0567.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA CIB, proud sponsor of the ABSA Africa Financial Markets Index 2025.
The Money Show, Friday Biz Blitz.
You know the number, 011-883-0702, 021-446-0567. First question tonight on the Friday Biz Blitz. Which tech company is the world's first company to reach a valuation of $5 trillion? The world's first $5 trillion company. Selma on the line from Rudaport. Hi.
Hi, Stephen. I think it is NVIDIA.
Selma, you are right. Correct. It is NVIDIA. Became the first company to reach $5 trillion this week, fueled, of course, by the AI boom. Okay, second question. Well done, Selma. Second question. Of these companies, which one is not owned by Meta? I'm going to read you a list of companies. Which ones are not owned by Meta? Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, and WhatsApp. Which of those companies, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, and WhatsApp, which of them are not owned by Meta, Selma?
I think it's Snapchat.
Snapchat is one. I need one more. I'll read them again.
Oh, okay.
So Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, and WhatsApp. You got Snapchat already? I need one more.
YouTube?
YouTube is correct, Selma. Yes, you're on a roll here. Meta is the parent company to Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram. They have their biggest one-day loss in 3 years this week. Okay, we move on. Third question on the Friday Biz Blitz, Selma. WBC is the JSE trading code of which used car retailer? So which used car retailer has the JSE trading code of WBC?
Is it by any chance Westbank Cars?
No, Selma. I see how you got there, but you're going to kick yourself because it's a big name. You'll have heard it many times. I'll give you another go. The JSE trading code, WBC, is of which used car retail?
Yes, of course, yeah. Obviously, we buy cars. WBC, we buy cars.
You had a group of people shaking their heads, Selma. Yes, we buy cars. Okay. Question 4. Name the Dubai-based fintech group that plans to debut on the JSE at a value of 26 billion rand. The Dubai-based fintech group, which is going to debut on the JSE with a valuation of 26 billion rand.
I don't think I know that answer.
Oh, Selma. Selma, you had a great run. Thank you. I'm sorry, we are going to have to end it there. The Dubai-based fintech group that plans to debut on the JSE. In Kaneko, hi. In Kaneko?
Hi, Stephen.
Hi, do you know the answer?
So can you repeat the question for me?
Sure. The Dubai-based fintech group that is going to debut on the JSE. It's going to be listed on the JSE This week, First Rand bought a big chunk of it. It's going to debut at 26 billion rand. What's the name of the company?
Oh, I had it actually. I had it.
I can hear the sound of you kicking yourself already in Kaneko.
Yeah.
You sure?
No,
you sure?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
In Kaneko, thank you. The answer, of course, is Optasia. It's 7 o'clock.